Hey, it's David from Redneck Garage. It's a beautiful morning here in Franklin, Tennessee. And yesterday we finished up the body bushings and or body lift kit, whichever one was your application as far as you were following along. So today we start on the body work. And I guess the way you'd look at body work is, how does an ant eat an elephant? One bite at a time. When you do an overall paint job, it's a lot of work, man. I tell you, the body work would consist of, and prep would consist of about 90% of what you do, and painting the truck itself is probably going to take me about, hour, 2 hours at the max to shoot the paint. So clearly everything that you do up to the point of shooting the paint is critical for your finished process. One thing that I like to do is take a walk around and start looking at specific spots, and I take a silver Sharpie if it's a dark colored vehicle, or if it's a light colored vehicle you use a black one. Identify trouble spots, dings, nicks. Right here you can see there's a little ding right there that I might have missed as I'm going through. You're going to miss something. When you start shooting on the paint, you're going to think, oh man, I wish I'd done that, or oh man, there's a little ding there, or so there's going to be little stuff like that. That's just the way it is. There's no such thing as perfect body work. Today we're going to talk about some tools, procedures, things that I do that make it easier, but we're going to do it in one little step at a time as far as going through the body work, because if you try to look at it in its entirety, you just get overwhelmed, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. You've got to have specific tools also to be able to do some of this work. Otherwise it's going to take you half a year or a year to take a block sander and sand the whole thing down. So we're going to take a look at that. So let's get going. The frame from yesterday where we put the bushings in dried up, and it looks awesome. That frame looks really nice. The grinder wheel we used from Diablo Home Depot did a nice job flattening everything out, and then it turned out really nice. I'm happy with that. All right, let's go. So before we start doing the actual body work itself, I wanted to take a minute just to talk about tools, equipment, supplies you're going to need to be able to do a job like this. When I was about 14, I did my first car, and it was rough as a cob, man. I tell you, I shot the paint too dry. It came out kind of looking like, almost like one of these powder coat finishes now, but it was not intentional. And then through the years, I've gotten a little bit better, and I've had a lot more experience. When I was 16, I did a car, drove it to prom. That was really cool. It turned out really nice. Was it as nice as it could have been? Absolutely not. I did not have the proper tools, equipment, or training to be able to do a great job on it. The painting turned out nice. It was a single stage coat. I think I used a DuPont actually. However, the tools that I used were basically hand tools, because I was poor, man. I was a high school kid. Maybe that's where you're at. And if your vehicle doesn't need a lot of body work, like there's not a lot of dents and dings and things like that, then you're in good shape, man. You can go ahead and fix the small little amount that you need and then paint. You're in good shape. But unfortunately, the Jeep that I have, I got it at a really good price, and it does have some pretty significant dents and dings in it that I'm going to have to repair before I do it. Now, the one way to do it is to do it by hand, and that is going to take you the most amount of time, and I mean 6 months, whatever. But I prefer, as I've gotten older, to be more lazy. There's a couple of schools of thought. You can go get the cheapest equipment that you can get, and sometimes it will work okay. But I tend to believe that sometimes you shouldn't skimp on tools and get the best ones, because you got to deal with fatigue, performance, materials. You're going to use a lot more material if you're using cheap tools. So there's a lot of different things you can weigh back and forth. One thing you're going to need is a DA sander. And this is a Air Advantage, which is used by a lot of body shops. And it is very quiet. It is smooth in the hand. It has ball bearings in it. You keep it oiled. This thing lasts a long time. And this is a great DA sander. You can get a DA sander at like Lowe's or Home Depot, Harbor Freight Tools. If you're not doing very much, probably be okay with it. But I like having good tools if I'm going to be using them quite a bit. This is a great DA sander. Now, okay, so if you're doing sanding on a long flat surface, say on the sides of this Jeep that are pretty well dented up, it's almost impossible to use a DA sander. You can't use this to smooth out a whole side of the finish. On this job, I went ahead and bought this tool. And if you look at cars, say like you got a Yugo here and a Maserati, this would be the Maserati or the Cadillac of air file sanders for body shops. Now there's a couple other ones made, like Viking makes a really good one, but this is a Hutchins Hustler. And it is a linear file, meaning it goes back and forth. And as far as tools go, you can look at spending between $300 and $350 for this air file sander. But the advantage of that is that it works really well. It uses way less air than one of the cheap ones. It holds up incredibly well. As long as you keep it oiled, it holds up well. And this is a great tool. So I bought this just because I want to make it easier on myself. And because it takes less time to do the work, you don't get as worn out. So we're going to be using this tool quite a bit. So it's a little windy, and I apologize if there's a little wind noise. As we do a walk around of the Jeep, you can see that there's some pretty big dings and dents, especially in the rear quarter panels. The body sides, I believe this to be fairly straight, and then you can see that it's bent down on the lip all the way around. I believe at some point this Jeep was rolled over, and that's what happened. It pushed the fender flares in. From some of the things that I've seen, it's been in a few wrecks. Of course, we put a new fender on the front. The hood is in fairly good shape except for some dings and some dents. I've marked a few of them that need to be filled in. This fender's got a pretty good mark here. If you remember from our testing of the cameras, you can see right in the center there's a good mark. There's a few little spots here and there. That's nice. When you're going over your vehicle, you need to look really close. When I looked at this, I can see that this is out just a hair. This section right here is pulled out, and I'm going to have to take a hammer and a block and push that back in just a bit. This section right here is knocked out a bit, and you can tell that this is where your strap for your door goes, and probably that door got yanked so hard that it bent this piece of metal out. So we'll push that back in with a block as we go along. I've got new letters for this. I'm going to sand those off. The driver's side is in much better shape than the passenger side. This will be a lot less work to get ready. There was one ding right here that I circled, and it's minor. Probably you could fill that in with, primer would almost fill that in, but I'll put a little bit of either skin it or a little Bondo in that. And then we get back to our back rear quarters on the Jeep. And this one certainly is rough as a cob. It's been up. Now, will I pull some of this out? Yes, I will, but there's a cheat. With the rear quarter panels, as bad as they are, I'm going to cheat a little bit on this truck. I've purchased armor plate that's going to cover that, like so, and it's going to look really super cool in the back quarter panels. That will eliminate a lot of body work. You can see on that back, this side here, once I put that armor plate there, some of that isn't going to matter. I'm going to pull it out so the tail light sits evenly, but other than that, it's going to be a lot less work for me by putting the armor plate around this bent up piece of crap. I'll straighten it out some. This, when you look at that bottom lip, I'm going to have to take a porta power and push that out a little bit, work it around, and then that's where we're going to be using our air file down this long side to straighten that out. And then the rest of it is fairly good shape. And we've got a new windshield frame. I actually painted the inside of it in the earlier video if you saw that. May shoot it again, I don't know. Not a big deal. And your roll bars will need to be painted. This is the factory finish on that. Man, I do like that color. I like to take a straight edge sometimes to just kind of get an idea of where I'm at, where the low spots are and the high spots. How bad is it? A nice thing to do is to go back to the other side and compare it to the other side when you have a question. There's a pretty good gap when I'm looking at this in the middle. So I'll take this and look at the other side to see if it's that bad on the other side or if it's just this side, if it's both sides. Well, I've got my answer. It actually is pushed in a little bit here on the bed. Which there again is okay as long as we get it smooth all the way across it may not need that much work. That's terrible there. And then when we get up to this point, it's not too bad. We'll do our initial body work, get it as straight as we can, and then we'll start sanding and skinning this side. And I believe I'm going to just start here because it's the worst. I'm basically trying to massage it back into closer to what it was originally, and it may be a high or low spot. Once I run a DA sander over it, I'll be able to see if it's high or low, and then you can take your body hammer, just tap it in a little bit. Having a porta power is helpful to be able to straighten up stuff like this. So once I get it set up, I'm going to push this lip out a little bit. Okay, you can see I massaged the metal out quite a bit, flattened it out. I've got my panel that fits on this side, and I'm going to see how well it looks, because I don't want to spend all year on this stupid porta. Okay, so I can see that the fender flare basically goes to here. So right here. So feels a little high right there in the center. Alright, so I took a straight edge to this edge. It was actually bowed in a little bit. You could tell from the side it was messed up. So I took my porta power and placed it on the other side with a couple wood blocks and pressured it up a little bit. Took my level, and it's pretty straight now. So I'll let the pressure off, and it should go back just a hair. So now I'm going to take my straight edge and see how close it is. And that, boys and girls, is close enough for government work. It had a pretty good gap in it. And that's pretty close. Okay, so there's the side after sanding it down with 80 grit DA. Got to hit some of those spots a few more times. The parts that need Bondo will be ground down to bare metal with like a 50 grit disc, and then we'll skin it. And we'll have that 1/4 panel done. That, my friends, is an urban terrorist right there. The urban terrorist has entered the backyard. What are you doing, T. Gray? You better hush up. You better hush up. Look at him. He knows what he's doing. Well, it's starting to get kind of windy, and it's supposed to rain all weekend long, so that's awesome. Yay. Probably won't get to do much body work in the rain. But I am really happy with the progress we've made today with the body work. Next time we start on this, we're going to put a light skin of Bondo on it, and then we'll use the Hutchkin Airs file to file that down, see if we've got any high spots or low spots. Feather it in. We'll have basically half of the truck finished because it's got a new front fender. That's awesome. Hope you have a great weekend. David from Redneck Garage. Keep turning wrenches.